Hey everyone, I'm Abdullah from Oman Microboat Fishing. I know it's been a couple of weeks since I last posted a video, but the weather's not been exactly friendly for fishing. The water's been cold and fish have been acting quite lethargic. To make things worse, the water's all green here in Muscat, and that usually means donuts. So I've not really caught anything interesting lately. But that being said, I felt like I have an opportunity here to talk a little bit about the gear that I'm using. Share my experiences about it. Maybe, uh, hear a thing or two about what you guys think. So I'd be happy to learn from you. So please do leave comments below. Tell me what you think about the gear I'm using, what you'd rather use. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to help. I'd be happy to answer them so long as they're within my scope of knowledge. Yeah, before I get started, I should probably point out this is not a review. So I wouldn't use this as a shopping guide, but rather more of a kind of reference to the kind of gear that I personally like to use while fishing off a microskiff. So if you're using a kayak, a microskiff, a jet ski, this is probably more relevant to you than it would be if you're fishing from a bigger boat or off the rocks, So in this episode, if you want to call it an episode, I'm gonna talk about my slow jigging gear. Now I never do any fast jigging because you can't do that on a vessel so light unless you want to turn it over, So. Yeah, let's get started with the reel. I am using a Saragosa 5000, and everything you've heard about the durability of this reel, I can vouch for. This thing is a mule. It goes through so much abuse. It's actually quite impressive that it still functions the same way it did when I first bought it. Sitting on my rod holder on the skiff, it gets splashed with so much water. I have to say the other reels haven't fared so well. One of them completely stopped working. I'm going to show you that in another episode. Yeah, this reel is great. It performs well and it's also quite durable. On my reel, I've spooled a braided line of what is this, P2.5 if I recall correctly. And the reason I'm using a lighter line on this is because capacity is actually quite important for me, because sometimes I jig at say about 200 meters depth, even though that doesn't actually go all that frequent, but I do it from time to time. So I do need the capacity, and I find that most fish don't fight as hard when you catch them while jigging as they would if you catch them from the surface of the water. So this is actually quite sufficient. Now, I'm not really sure why that is. If you have an explanation for it, enlighten us. My first guess would be that it's that drastic change of pressure. It might also be the fact that they're being pulled upwards, and maybe that kind of goes against any normal movement for a fish. I'm not really sure why that is. So if you have any information about that, do share what you know about that. I knot my braided line to a leader that can take up to 50 lbs. So yeah, this is quite an ideal combination for me, and I always use the FG knot. Now I know it takes a bit longer than other knots to tie, but it's quite reliable, so I'm happy with it. I have this reel on a golden blue rod. I have to admit, I don't really know much about this brand aside from the fact that it's Japanese and that I'm happy with its performance. This rod handles jigs that weigh up to 150 grams, so 45 to 150. That's the recommended weight. I'm happy with its performance. It gives great action with the fish, and it's actually quite tough, so I've fought decent fish with this. And yeah, really happy with it. It's very light as well, so that helps when you're jigging. You don't put so much strain on your wrists and shoulders. yeah, so that's my main setup while jigging, at least. Um, Let me show you the jigs that I'm using. Now, here is my set of jigs, and as I mentioned earlier, I don't always jig at very deep waters, but the currents are sometimes really strong, so you need heavier jigs to reach the bottom when that happens. So I always carry a wide, a wide range of different weights, from 30 grams to 130 grams. I've got one that weighs, I think, 200, but I rarely ever carry that with me. So yeah, I carry heavy jigs not only for deeper waters, but also for when the current is strong, because I want the jig to go downwards rather than, sideways. My favorite jigs are from a brand called Evergreen. I'm really happy with these. I'm not really sure what how they move in the water, but I do feel a difference in terms of, when you're pulling them upwards, you can kind of feel that they're dancing through the water better, and we let them go down as well. They move really slow, and I like that. They've caught me a good number of fish. So this is one of the lighter ones I have from Evergreen, and it weighs 50 grams. I think I've got some, I don't have any lighter ones from this brand, but these are good. The action's good, and I've caught a good number of fish with them. And they do tend to maintain the color for longer than some of the cheaper jigs. Yeah, so I carry jigs of different weights, as I mentioned, 40, 130. This one here drives the fish nuts, and you can see all the bite. Now, some of them are actually scratches from the hooks, but look at that. This here has caught me a good number of groupers, some cloudy groupers as well. They taste real good. And yeah, it seems to be visible in very deep water as well. I mean, I bet it doesn't reflect anything down there, but the fish do see it, and it works well. I also have glow-in-the-dark ones. I have to say, I've not really noticed a huge difference in between glowing ones and non-glowing ones. I don't really know how much that helps. Maybe because I don't fish in the night, but from my knowledge, once you exceed a certain depth, regardless of how much sunlight you have, unless the water is like glass clear, at say about 80, 90 meters of depth, there's hardly any light there. So yeah, I've not really seen much difference between the glowing ones and the ones that don't glow. So I'm not saying it doesn't work. I've just not witnessed much of a difference between them. So yeah, that's my jigging setup. Please do share comments about what you think about it. Let me know what you think. Even if you don't like it, I'd be happy to learn something from you. I can't claim to be the most experienced in terms of kayak fishing or fishing altogether. I'm actually quite new to it, despite the fact that I do it quite frequently. So I'm all up to learning more from you guys. So yeah, leave comments below. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done that. I've got some interesting videos on my channel, so show some support. Share them with your friends. Comment, like them, or dislike them, and tell me why you dislike them. Maybe that'll teach me how to make even better videos. So yeah, peace.